Hi guys, welcome to the Viventium webinar. Today we're going to be discussing maximizing workplace health and safety during the pandemic. Our presenter today is Kara Govro, and she will be going through the information. We will have a few different poll questions and information to go through. The webinar 101, you'll get a copy of these slides and a recorded version of the webinar within 24 hours of today. We would love to hear from you in the poll questions that we are asking, and please use the question and answer box for any questions that you may have during the presentation. Poll question number 1. What would you like to learn more about? COVID-19 relief up to phase 4, the newest Form 941, the new Form 7200, the revised Form 3508, and the new Form 3508EZ, or the new Form 3508S? Go ahead and provide your answers. We'll give you guys a few minutes. Looks like the COVID-19 relief up to phase 4 form is the most requested form. 89% of you requested more information on that form. Poll question number 2. Will you be evaluating new payroll and HR options for 2021? Yes or no? Give you guys a few minutes. Looks like 67% of you said no and 33% of you said yes. Thank you for answering those questions. Kara, I'll go ahead and move it over to you.
All right, cool. Hello, everyone. We are here once again to talk about basically working through the pandemic and what you can do to keep your employees and your workplace safe. So our first topic will just be general guidance about workplace safety. Our second topic will be managing individual health, basically keeping your employees healthy, helping them stay healthy, figuring out if they are healthy. Then we'll talk about dealing with a diagnosis, so what steps you need to take as an employer if someone comes to you and says they were diagnosed with COVID-19 and they had been in the workplace anytime recently. And then finally, we'll talk about sick leave policies a bit and emergency paid sick leave, which is still going on till at least the end of this year. Do feel free to use the Q&A box to ask me questions if you have any. I'm also open to questions on like the FFCRA generally, furloughs, layoffs, almost anything related to the pandemic. I'm open to questions about if you want to shoot those my way. Okay, first up though, let's talk about making the workplace safe. So the number one thing we can do, or one of the top 3 things we can do, is have our employees wear masks in the workplace. This is actually recommended by the CDC. It's a little bit buried, but they do recommend that masks be worn anywhere that social distancing cannot be maintained. And in many cases, realistically, this is going to be the workplace. Of course, if you have a large, cube farm style kind of workplace where everybody goes to their corner and stays there and they're not within 6 feet of anyone else and they've got half walls or full walls, then, there may be an exception when they're at their workstation. But anytime people are getting up and walking around, and maybe assuming you don't have an enormous cube farm, masks are going to be a really good choice in terms of increasing safety. So require employees to wear them and require your customers or clients, if you have them coming into your building, to wear them as well. If they are required by you or the city or the state, you should make them available. So at this point, obviously, most people sort of have their masks that they like, and they probably bought them themselves. But if they don't, or they ask you for one, they want one specifically for work, whatever it may be, that should be something that you are providing. If you are asking customers or clients to wear them, definitely have an extra stash. so they can't make excuses or have to go back to their car and then never return to your business to spend their money. It's a good idea to have this in a written policy format, both for your customers and for your employees. I'm specifically referring to employees, though, because we want to be able to enforce that. Of course, you can enforce any rule you want, even if you only shouted it from the rooftops, as opposed to putting it into, your employee handbook or into written format. But written format is always just a little bit simpler. You've got something you can point back at and basically prove that it was, in fact, a policy. If it's necessary or helpful, pick a scapegoat. This is definitely not, CDC guidance, but if it helps to say, the city made us do it, the state made us do it, the CEO made us do it, I say go for it. Don't feel bad about it. However, if you are choosing someone within the organization to be your scapegoat who's a real stickler for masks, make sure that you've run that by them. And then a final point on this is, don't make your employees enforce masking rules if you're open to the public. This can be dangerous. You can certainly, make some guidelines about like asking customers to put on masks. That's not unreasonable. Remind them that masks are required, offer them a mask, tell them they need a mask. But, if a customer starts to pitch a fit about that, we do not want to put it on our employees to have a shouting match with them, to haul them out of the building, to physically stop them from entering our workplace. Don't put that on your employees. I'm sure they're not paid enough for that level of risk to themselves. So again, we can come up with some guidelines there about the next step an employee takes, or really just the first step to ask clients or customers to put on a mask, but we don't want to turn them into security guards. Another one of our top items for increased safety is hand washing. So have employees wash their hands as soon as they come in the door, because you don't know where they've been. Well, you know where they've been, and it's everywhere but the workplace. So they've been touching their phone, they've been touching their, car steering wheel, they've been touching all their things at home, and possibly their children's snotty faces. So as soon as they come in is a perfect time to wash their hands. The CDC also suggests we have people wash their hands after they blow their nose, touch garbage, make food, exit and re-enter the building, and before and after breaks. Those are all great ideas as well. You can also consider scheduling hand washing throughout the day. So say, all employees need to clean their hands once an hour. But what we wouldn't want to do is say, everybody go at the top of the hour and wash your hands, because then you're going to have a pile up at your 2 or 3 sinks, or 1 sink, or 10 sinks. So we want to spread that out if we're going to take that approach. Also, provide hand sanitizer, particularly if frequent hand washing is impractical or impossible, but also just kind of a general rule. It's good to have around in places where there are lots of high touch surfaces. So if you've got like a break room or a kitchen facility, that's a great place to have hand sanitizer. Also, by the front door. If you are open to the public, I can tell you that at least I personally sort of prioritize places where there is hand sanitizer available. For instance, near the touch pads, I would much rather go to a grocery store, and I will drive further and pay more if I feel that they are taking the extra steps to keep me safe, including providing me some hand sanitizer after I've had to touch that keypad that thousands of people have touched on any given day. So my 2 cents on that one. I think it would be a benefit to provide that even for your bottom line. With respect to surface hygiene, we want to make sure that we're cleaning high touch areas on a very regular basis, and lower touch areas on at least a semi-regular basis. We want to pay attention to doorknobs, light switches, countertops, handles, phones, keyboards, toilet handles. The bathroom door, obviously, like #1 communally touched place. Also think about any dispensers you might have. So if you've got like a water cooler, that's maybe one of the most touched buttons in your entire office. So what I would do with that is mark it as a high touch surface. So like I would personally get a little sticky note with a red arrow on it, point right at that thing. And I'd probably also put a bottle of hand sanitizer, and a box of Kleenex. So people could grab a Kleenex, put it over their finger, touch the water bottle button, and then throw the Kleenex away. There are lots of sort of pretty inexpensive ways that we can bring attention to high-touch surfaces and help people reduce their own risk. We don't want to mix cleaners. That's one that people brought up when I've given this webinar in the past. They wanted it pointed out that cleaners should not be mixed. So yes, let's throw that on there. If you're having trouble finding cleaners, and you know that shortage may increase as we come into cold flu and COVID-19 season, you can look at List N, disinfectants for coronavirus. Super easy to just Google that. And it's many, many pages long, hundreds of products long, that will kill this particular coronavirus. It will also tell you how long they need to be touching a surface to do so. So if you're struggling to find, you know, Lysol wipes or whatever the really easy stuff is, the obvious stuff, you can check out that list and find some other options. We can also actually just reduce touch points, right? So instead of providing Kleenex and hand sanitizer and sticky notes, there are some things we can do to just eliminate them altogether. So door stops for rooms that don't need the door closed will prevent a lot of people from touching a door handle. And you know, you can make a doorstop out of anything. You can presumably buy them on Amazon for like $1.50, but you could also make them out of wadded up paper. So that's an easy one to solve. If you're sending people, you know, into office spaces or different locations in the building that happen to have doors that don't need doors, just prop them open. As for, let's say, bathroom doors, you can install a foot pull door opener. So it's just this little L-shaped metal thing that you screw onto the bottom of the door so people can push down with their toe and pull the door open and not have to touch the handle with their hand. Pretty ingenious, very expensive, low effort. And instead of, you know, a motion activated garbage can, you could just get an open top garbage can. You know, again, very, very simple solution there. Higher investment items might be a motion activated water faucet or bottle filling station, and switching from use of a pin pad, maybe for security, to use of key fobs. I know that those are sort of higher level suggestions, but something you could consider if you've, you know, got the money to invest. We're going to be in this pandemic thing for a while now. And, you know, honestly, all of these things we've been doing to avoid COVID-19, I think I just read this morning have reduced the transmission of, you know, the standard cold and flu. So not a terrible idea in the first place to do these things that we've sort of learned to do lately. If you're open to the public, there are certainly some things you can do to increase safety. I know a lot of locations have been open maybe this whole time or for many, many months, but there are still some businesses that are just opening back up, or maybe you're considering opening up a few months from now. We want to find a way to stagger customer flow. I know that actually where I live, we stepped back how open we were. So I think we lifted maybe most occupancy restrictions until a few weeks ago, and now we're back down to like a 50% or some very small occupancy number. So we are once again, you know, seeing people counting how many people are going into and out of REI or the grocery store. So find your way of staggering customer flow. You can mark areas one way to keep people going, you know, in a singular direction, so they're not having to dance and pass one another. Personally, I'm not sure of the effectiveness of this, but you could give it a shot. And depending on how you're laid out, that may be more logical for you. Even in an office with like the office I used to work in once upon a time was sort of circular. So, you know, we could have marked the path to only go one way, and it was a very small office, so that wouldn't ever cause anyone all that much of a detour. I could do something like that. You can certainly remove furniture to reduce capacity. You know, you may have seen Starbucks just sort of like marks tables and chairs as unavailable. You can do that as well if you don't want to remove the furniture, if that's more trouble. Set up touchless pay systems if you can and help customers figure out how to use them. So I suddenly discovered in the last month or so that some of the places I go will now let me just tap my card. I know that theoretically you should have been able to do that before, but like it wasn't activated for whatever reason. And it seems like retailers are just figuring it out. So now my card with a chip in it, I can literally just tap it at the machine. I don't have to sign. I don't have to use the pin pad, nothing. So if you can figure out how to make your pay systems more touchless, that's fantastic. And I talked about this already, but I think providing hand sanitizer at the door or at any keypads is a really good idea. As for office spaces, if you're not necessarily open to the public, but you've got people coming in to, sit at their cubicle or sit at their space or in their office, we want to do the following. Number one, let people work from home. That's the best thing we can do. Keep them out of shared spaces, keep them, to themselves. Maybe you can't let people work from home full time. Maybe that doesn't work for you for some reason. If you can even do part-time, that's better than nothing. If you can stagger shifts, that's also a good idea if you've got work that allows for that. Change your seating arrangements. I mentioned earlier, if you can send people to, far off places, corners that weren't used before, if you had some empty desks, you can spread people out that way. Also, if you've got, meeting rooms and conference rooms that are underutilized these days, you can send people there to just create distance. You can also consider sending people to lobbies, courtyards. I mean, outside, if you're somewhere that has nice weather year round, certainly wouldn't work in Oregon, but it's something you could consider. If you can't spread people out well enough, do install barriers. So we've seen so much plexiglass. It seems that it's still readily available out there. If you can't, build a cube wall, if you can't send people to far-flung corners because you don't have far-flung corners, then do consider installing barriers. As for meetings, try not to have them in person. They can almost certainly be avoided. We're all learning to get along virtually, and I think we can continue that. So this is just a short list of options that are free to at least some degree. So some of these have limits on the number of attendees, some have limits on the number of time, but some of those limits are pretty high. So I use like Jitsi Meet for my book club, and I'm not sure what their limit is, but it's way above anything I need, and it actually works better than the stuff that we pay for, which I will not name. So if you haven't figured out how to do your meetings virtually yet, there's no time like the present. If you absolutely have to have an in-person meeting, then hold it in a large, well-ventilated area. Set up chairs and tables ahead of time. Don't count on employees to measure their 6 feet and do the right thing. Do, if at all possible, make the area one way. So if it has 2 doors, make one the indoor and one the outdoor, again, so we don't have people sort of dancing past one another. Want to try to maintain that 6 feet whenever we can. And then make sure that you do record or simulcast the meeting. So those who can't attend in person do still get the benefits. We've got a lot of people right now who are working from home as a reasonable accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And we do not want to be excluding them from things that they don't need to be excluded from if there's a fairly simple fix that would be part of that reasonable accommodation. So I think most video conferencing systems, have a pretty simple record button or a recording method. So do make sure that people are getting the benefit of attending those meetings. Better even if you can, bring them into the meeting, on a computer and put their face sitting down at the desk so they can watch. That's the best. But if for whatever reason that doesn't work, at least make sure that you record those meetings so they can get the benefit. My next couple slides are about things to do for your building. So I realize that some of you listening may not have, power over what's happening in your building, but somebody probably does. Presumably, you rent and your building manager is the one to talk to about this. So do consider checking into this, even if you're not the ultimate source. We definitely want to improve central air filtration if we can. So we want more outdoor air. We want, I know that's not particularly reasonable. Well, it may be reasonable in the winter to pull in outdoor air, but we're not going to be getting it through open doors and windows, which ideally open doors and windows are wonderful when the weather allows. We want to increase airflow. We want to run the air even when not a lot of people are around, or regardless of the temperature in an area. And we want to consider whether the air is moving from clean areas to less clean areas or vice versa. So we wouldn't want to be pulling air from a lobby full of people and pumping it into our cubicle area. That increases risk right there. So these are things that either you can look into or you can maybe talk to your building manager about. If you're opening for the first time in months, again, by the time I go back to the office, if ever, it will probably have been a year. We want to make sure that we are running the water. So there's Legionella issues. That's happens when we've got standing water. So we need to flush the system. The CDC has some really specific guidance about that. And we also want to be checking for mold. If we haven't been running the air in a facility at all for quite some time, and we're in a location with much humidity at all, we could definitely have a mold problem. So these are things you want to check into before you bring people back into the building. The CDC has a lot more detailed information on this. If you're curious, it's pretty easy to find if you actually search coronavirus building water system. That includes the Legionella info as well as the mold info on that page. So definitely something to consider if you've been closed for a while and are thinking about opening up either now or in the future. All right, let's talk about managing individual health for our employees. So ideally, we would like them to self-assess before coming in for their shift. We are also going to talk to them when they arrive. Hopefully, that would be my guidance. But even better if we can get them to sort of assess their own symptoms and stay home if they have any before they, drag themselves to the office and potentially expose people. So the list of fairly common symptoms has gotten quite long. There's certainly overlap with, your standard cold. So don't be trying to differentiate and be like, oh, well, do you think it's a cold? If you think it's just a cold, go ahead and come in. No, if people are having these symptoms, they really need to stay home. So do encourage employees to self-assess before they come for their shift. If you are taking their temperatures when they come in, or having them take their own temperature before coming in, we want to wait 30 minutes after exercise. So if they're a morning exerciser, we want to wait a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to get a higher readout than what's reasonable. And we also want to wait at least 4 hours after taking a fever reducer. That will obviously impact results. Of course, if they're taking a fever reducer for a fever, they should just stay home anyway. But if they're taking it for sore muscles, then we want to wait that 4 hours. The CDC is using 100.4 as their sort of standard for when you should stay home. I think that's pretty high. My regular, body temperature is like 97.1 or something ridiculous. So for me, if I were 99, that would be hot for me. That would be suspiciously hot. So you are welcome as an employer to have this number be lower, or to tell employees that they can sort of gauge their own feverishness. If they feel hot, if they've got a temperature that's higher than it should be for them, they can stay home. There's no rule that says you have to stick with that 100.4, but certainly you should not go higher than the 100.4. If you're also going to take employee temperatures when they come into the building, then there's sort of a list of fairly obvious precautions that should be taken. The person who is taking those temperatures is clearly going to have more exposure than anyone else in the building, most likely. So we want to make sure that they're safe. We want them to have a mask. We want the person having their temperature taken to have a mask. If the screener wants goggles or a face shield, you should provide those. We also want to make sure that there's A physical barrier, if possible, between the screener and employees. Obviously, they're going to have to reach around that at some point, to take the temperature most likely, but do what you can. If they need to touch employees with the thermometer, that should be disinfected between each person. Consider whether they have easy access to hand washing, or if not, make sure the gloves are available. You do need to keep these results confidential. So I've heard about employers having like a logbook where they'll have employees take their own temperature at the front door and write it in the logbook. That's not a good idea for a few reasons. One being the ADA requires that information remain confidential, and by basically forcing an employee to expose their own health information to all the other employees who see the logbook, we've definitely violated the ADA. That's not going to fly. But also, I would not trust employees to put the right number down. If they want to work because they're out of paid leave or they don't know about paid leave, they're going to lie. So for the sake of both, meeting your ADA obligations and getting actual answers, real truthful answers from employees, I would put somebody in charge of that. Likewise, if you're going to ask employees about symptoms, which is a good idea when they come in, we do want to keep it specific to COVID-19. So you can use that list that's a few slides back. And we do want to keep the answers confidential. So you would not want to ask them within hearing distance of the employee behind them. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in a closed office. You probably don't want to be in a closed office with those people. But, give it 10 feet. Ask quietly. Be discreet. Just consider those things. Finally, I mentioned before that we're probably offering collectively more reasonable accommodations now than ever. Most likely, a lot of people are working from home right now because they're high risk. They have a higher probability of getting a bad case of COVID-19 and potentially even dying from it, or having a lot of really bad results. So those people are asking to work from home. That is something that we are almost certainly granting. If we're not granting it, we need to be considering it. So the ADA does apply only if you have 15 or more employees, but there are a lot of state laws that are very similar to the ADA and require reasonable accommodations that kick in at lower employee counts, like 5. So we would recommend that you consider providing reasonable accommodations almost regardless of your size. But certainly if you're thinking about denying them because you're under 15 employees, then make sure you check state law first. If someone is asking for a reasonable accommodation, like working from home or taking an unpaid leave if they have a job that absolutely can't be done from home, like their retail, then you are engaging in the interactive process with that person, and you can ask for a doctor's note. You don't have to take somebody's word for it that they have to work from home because they're high risk. You can ask for a doctor's note on that one. You don't have to ask for a doctor's note though. So for instance, if you've worked with somebody for 10 years and they have, a number of autoimmune diseases and are high risk, you don't have to require a doctor's note in order to offer them a reasonable accommodation. The follow-up question I almost always get on this topic, so I've just gone ahead and put it on the slide, is that you don't have to accommodate people who have vulnerable family or household members. So reasonable accommodations do not go that extra degree of association, but I'd strongly encourage you to do it. If somebody has, their wife is undergoing chemotherapy and there's no reason they can't work from home, or maybe it's a little harder to work from home, but it's not impossible. I would certainly encourage you to be flexible there and show compassion. We don't want to end up, with the dead wife sort of hanging over our head because we made someone come to work when it wasn't absolutely necessary. All right, let's talk about dealing with a COVID-19 diagnosis. So what do we need to do if we find out that someone in the workplace has been diagnosed? Well, the first question is usually, when can they come back? How long should I make them stay away or quarantine for? We really want to leave this to their healthcare provider. We're not doctors. Each case is a little bit different. We don't know when their symptoms came on. We don't want to guess as to the severity of their case. So try to leave that to the doctors. But the general rule that's being followed is that at least 24 hours have passed since resolution of fever without any use of medications. Other symptoms have improved, and at least 10 days have passed since symptoms first appeared or since their first positive test result. So let's say somebody comes to work on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, they're feeling a little icky. You send them home. They get a COVID test, Monday night. It comes back positive. But by, Tuesday night, they feel fine. It was a mild case. They're feeling good by Tuesday night. We're not going to wait 24 hours and let them come back, Thursday morning. We're going to wait that full 10 days since their symptoms first appeared on Monday. You should tell other employees, but you're not going to tell them exactly who's sick. I know that's a little baffling, and employees won't necessarily like that at all because they think that they need to be, informed so they can gauge their own risk. But the ADA requires we keep this information confidential, but we also need to tell employees that they may have been exposed. So depending on your office layout or your workplace layout, people's level of exposure will vary greatly. You might have some employees who were definitely in close contact for more than 15 minutes. It may be that nobody had close contact with this employee. So you can call your local health authority. I would strongly encourage you to do that and see what they think. Explain the situation, explain your workplace layout, when people were where, and hopefully they can guide you on, which employees need to quarantine and which do not. And maybe which even need to be informed or not. Close contact right now is, for a prolonged period of time, is considered 6 feet or less for 15 minutes or more, regardless of masks, because we basically just don't really trust that people are wearing them correctly. That doesn't mean they're ineffective at all, but the CDC is preferring a more risk-averse approach on this one. So if you had people standing together on a production line, shoulder to shoulder, that's probably going to be a quarantine situation for your other employee or employees. If you've got people who are sitting 2 cubicles apart or on the other side of the building, no, we don't need, everyone in there to quarantine. So again, something that hopefully your local health department can help you work through. The CDC does provide guidance for disinfecting areas used by an employee diagnosed with COVID-19. It's pretty specific. So if you can, they want you to close off areas used by that person for 24 hours. 24 hours might not be possible, but close it off for as long as you can. The point of that is, the virus dies off. Every hour, more of it will be dead, and it will be less risky for someone to clean that area. So we just want to wait. If you can, open outside doors and windows. Again, I know it's winter now, but if you can find a way to do that, do it. Clean and disinfect the areas used by that person, and try to sort of like walk yourself through their workday, right? So they come in, they sit down, they're there for 2 hours, then they go, where next? Where do they take their breaks? Which bathrooms do they use? Who else do they talk to? What corridors are they in? Stuff like that. Sort of try to do a day in the life of the sick employee, just to make sure you've covered all the areas that should be cleaned. Gotten a couple questions about whether you guys will get the slides. You will. You'll get a copy of the entire slide deck, as well as the recorded webinar within about 24 hours. So you don't need to be frantically taking notes on any of this. We will get it to you. The CDC has some really specific guidance on vacuuming if you need to vacuum after you've found someone to be infected. And then finally, if it's been 7 or more days since the person who's sick was in the workplace, you don't need to do any additional cleaning or disinfection. Honestly, the virus is probably dead and non-transmittable before 7 days is up, but 7 days we feel super comfortable with. So if it's been that long, you don't need to fret about it. And, so if you've got employees working from home, for instance, most of your employees working from home, they don't need to be notified that someone in the office was diagnosed with COVID-19 because they haven't been in the office, right? So we don't need to freak them out about it. Just something to consider. I did have at least one employer ask me that, like, do we need to notify people, if they weren't even in the office? And you certainly don't. Okay, I'm wrapping up this section now. It looks like we've got one more poll question for you, and then we will get into sick leaves. And I am ahead of schedule here. I must have be well caffeinated. So if you guys are coming up with any questions, again, do feel free to chat those in because it looks like we'll have time at the end.
Okay, poll question number 3. What other products and topics interest you? There is payroll, HR, applicant tracking, time and attendance, business intelligence, learning management, benefits administration and ACA, and COVID-19 solutions. Go ahead and give you guys a little bit of time to get those answered. And the results say 44% of you would like more information on COVID-19 solutions. And then payroll and HR are the next leading, is then followed up by benefits administration, applicant tracking, and time and attendance, followed by business intelligence and learning management. Thanks, guys.
All right, let's talk sick leave policies now, everybody's favorite. My takeaway for you on this one is really that your sick leave policy should be as standard and well enforced as your attendance policy. What do I mean by that? A lot of employers, at least in the past, have had sick leave policies that say, if you are sick, you can have some time off. And that's pretty much it. If you're sick, if you don't feel well, here's some paid time to stay home or some unpaid time to stay home. What those policies often don't say is, if you are sick, you must stay home. And that's how we want our policies to be written these days. And you don't necessarily have to run out and change your handbook today, but that's something you need to communicate one way or another to your employees, whether it's by announcement, email blast, posting on the intranet, whatever. Sick leave policies are now like required. If you are sick, you must stay home. Just like if you are an employee, you must come to work. And if you don't, you'll be in trouble. That's what the attendance policy says. The sick leave policy is going to say, however, if you are sick, instead, you must stay home. It's sort of a different approach than has been traditional in the past. It's going to require that we really change our attitude toward absence. I know we've had 9 months so far to do that, but it looks like we're going to have a pretty significant case spike over the winter. So there's still time and incentive to sort of change our attitude and train our managers to make sure that they understand that change in attitude. I know there are a lot of organizations where sort of corporate or executive level people think that, they've got this really great generous sick leave policy, but the mid-level managers are not letting people use it. They're saying, hey, we've got deadlines, we've got goals to meet, you've got to come in. I don't care if you're sick, I don't care what the policy says. So we need to resolve that disconnect that may exist between what our policy says and what sort of maybe the upper echelons think and how it's being executed at lower levels. Also, check on your call out policy. So this is quite possibly wrapped into your attendance policy or your attendance and tardiness policy. But many times I've seen something that's like, you must give 4 hours notice or 24 hours notice. I've actually seen that multiple times. 24 hours notice if you're going to be out sick. Well, that's not how sickness works. People don't know 24 hours ahead of time that they're going to feel bad when they wake up. You know, they know 30 minutes before work or 2 hours before work, depending on what their commute is like. You know, if they're rolling out of bed to commute, it's they may not have much lead time at all. So we want to make sure that that bit of the policy is reasonable, because if we've got people who are coming to work knowing they're sick just because they couldn't make the 4 hour or 24 hour you know, requirement, and they don't want to violate the policy, that's no good. We've increased risk for no good reason there. So do check on your call out policies. If you're already operating in a state or a city with paid sick leave or family medical leave, there's a really good chance those have been expanded to cover COVID-19 if they didn't already. Of course, you know, state or city sick leave is going to cover when an employee is sick, regardless of what they're sick with. But lots of these have been expanded to cover taking care of children who are out of school or taking care of sick family members. That wasn't necessarily covered before. So do check those. Also consider that state and local leaves provide job protection, as does the FFCRA, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So if you're deciding, for instance, a month from now who to lay off because, you know, business is slow and you do need to lay some people off, you should not be considering whether people use their leave. These are protected, and it would absolutely be an act of discrimination or retaliation for you to decide to furlough someone or lay someone off simply because they had accessed those leaves that they were entitled to. These state and local leaves are usually in addition to the federal leave that's available right now, although not always. The interactions are very complicated. We've been working really hard to keep up with them all year long, and they're still changing, and we're still getting new ones, and emergency orders are being extended. So we're definitely trying to stay on top of all that for you, but it's something you need to probably be paying attention to as an employer. All right, we're going to talk about EPSL, that's Emergency Paid Sick Leave under the FFCRA, that's the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. This is national sick leave. That's what it is. It's the first time we've ever had anything like it. So it's foreign to a lot of employers. Of course, if you're in New York City or many other states that have had sick leave, this isn't really novel, but it is in addition usually to what you offered before. So EPSL applies to all private employers with fewer than 500 employees. There is no exception for small employers. If you have 3 employees, emergency paid sick leave applies to you, and there is no way to get out of it. It's also available to all employees, no matter how long they have been employed with you. So if they start today and they're sick tomorrow, they get their emergency paid sick leave. The good news is that you're not really paying for this. Whatever you spend to compensate that person while they are out sick, you can take right off the top of your next payroll tax bill. So this is funded by the government. As I've said a couple times now, this is generally on top of any state required sick leave, but it's also on top of any PTO or sick leave that you offer out of the goodness of your heart. So we can't, for instance, reduce our own vacation policy that used to be 10 days to 1 day because now there's FFCRA. This is absolutely on top of whatever you offered before. And we also can't require employees to use other benefits first. So if you do offer some PTO, vacation, or sick leave right out of the goodness of your heart, we can't make employees use that up before they access their EPSL. Of note, this does theoretically end December 31st of this year. So come January 1st, the FFCRA, or EPSL, I should say, and EFMLA will be no more. However, big caveat, I'm hoping they extend them because, again, the pandemic's not going anywhere. We still have these problems. We still need to be able to, help people pay rent if they're out sick with coronavirus. So I anticipate that this will be extended in some fashion into the new year, but technically, as of right now, it ends on December 31st. EPSL can be used when the employee is subject to a local quarantine or isolation order. It can be used when they're advised by their healthcare provider to self-quarantine. It can be used to seek a medical diagnosis. It can be used to care for someone who qualifies for reason number 1 or number 2. It does not have to be a family member. It can be anyone where there would be an expectation of care. So it could be third aunt twice removed. It could be best friend. It could be boyfriend. It can also be used to care for a child if their school or place of care is closed due to COVID-19. We also have EFMLA, emergency family medical leave, that can be added on top of that for childcare. Full-time employees get up to 80 hours if they need it. Part-time employees get a prorated amount. Employees should receive 100% of their regular pay when they're caring for themselves, up to $511 per day. That would be nice. But when caring for others, they'll only receive 2/3 of their regular pay, up to $200 per day. Leave can be taken more than once, but it can't exceed 80 hours. So that has been a point of confusion sort of all along. If, for instance, someone is taking care of grandma with COVID right now and they need a week, and then a month from now, they get sick themselves, they'll still have a week of EPSL to use for their own sickness. They don't have to use it all in one chunk. The documentation we can require for EPSL is very limited. This surprises a lot of employers. So we're going to ask for the employee's name, the dates they need leave, the reason they need leave, and a statement that they are unable to work, including by means of telework, because of that reason. We cannot ask for a doctor's note. That is not on the list. It's not allowed. You would be in violation of the law if you required a doctor's note in order to grant someone EPSL. So make sure you're not doing that. If someone has been told to quarantine, either by the government or their healthcare professional, you can ask for that person's name, either the name of the government agency or the name of the healthcare professional who's advising self-quarantine. Again, not a note, not an order, not a fancy proclamation, just the name. And if they're caring for someone else, you can ask for that person's name, like, the great aunt's name or grandma's name, and their relationship to the employee. Again, it doesn't have to be a blood family member, but it needs to be someone where it's not unreasonable. It can't be a stranger, basically. All right, that wraps my content for the day. It looks like we got through the questions. So thank you all for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of the week.